stunning artwork has a fascinating history. Purchased by the owner's mother at a safe house, it has been a coveted piece in the family. The owner, who recently remodeled their home with a 1950s theme, has been eager to incorporate this picture into their decor. The artist, Earl Moran, born in 1893 and passing in 1984, had a remarkable career trajectory. Initially inspired by illustrators like Charles David Gibson and James Montgomery Flagg, Moran began as a white shoe illustrator and studied at the Art Students League in New York. However, Moran's fame and fortune came later in mid-century Los Angeles. This piece is a prime example of his end-of-calendar art.
Being pinup.
Right.
Do you have any idea of the value of the piece? Have you had it appraised recently?
No, I have no idea. Honestly, I just painted a wall in my house, the pink on the car, and so...
The painting features a charming scene with a Ford car, a sailboat,
Period sailing vessels and motorboat, the cute dog, the nice signature.
At auction, this particular piece, with its wholesome depiction and detailed composition, could fetch at...
I would be estimating it between $20,000 and $30,000 at auction.
Odds of stumbling upon rare artifacts when buying a house are pretty slim, but it happened to our guest husband's parents when they purchased a house in Eugene.
And in the cardboard box was this clock, although it was in poor condition when we first saw it. The wood was all gray, and some of the paint was not there.
Manufactured by the Ansonia Clock Company, founded in 1844 by Anson Green Phelps, this clock has a fascinating history. First cataloged in 1874, it belongs to the rare Roman model, one of the company's scarcer creations. Despite being refurbished, some essential parts remain original, adding to its allure.
It's an exotic wood, but he forgot to replace the calendar hand. And there's a calendar hand that would be attached here. It would indicate the day of the month on the outside.
Rare Connecticut wall clocks of this caliber are highly sought after by collectors, and at auction, this clock is estimated to fetch...
We would expect to see this clock in a retail outlet somewhere in the neighborhood of about $1,000.
All right. Yoo-hoo.
Portrait, painted in 1947, depicts the guest's grandfather and holds a unique story behind its creation. The guest's aunt, taking painting lessons at the Brooklyn Museum of Art, conceived the idea of having a portrait done and approached her instructor, who initially asked for $250, beyond their budget. With the instructor's recommendation, they met Franz Kline from the Lower East Side of New York.
He studied art in Boston. He also went on to study in London. He returns to the United States in 1939, ultimately sets up in New York in Greenwich Village.
Franz Kline, known for his later work in abstract expressionism, had his early days in a more representational style and established his abstract style in the 1940s. The portrait, done in oil on canvas, captured a realistic likeness of the guest's grandfather.
I wouldn't give you $10 for everything in the entire studio.
Despite Kline's later success in abstract expressionism, this portrait stands as a unique piece in his portfolio. At auction, this portrait could fetch a value of...
The painting were offered at auction today. We would value it at $3,000 to $5,000.
Wow, it's excellent.
Family heirloom included a watch which was made by his great-great-great-grandfather. It was believed to be crafted in partnership with Jules Jurgensen, a renowned Massachusetts jeweler. The watch was described in a letter from the late 1940s as a masterpiece of horology. The appraiser pointed out the guest's ancestor's signature at the bottom of the letter. The item featured intricate functions such as a perpetual calendar, minute repeater, moon phase indicator, and chronometer. The case was crafted from 18-karat gold in a hunting case style, with an exhibition cover revealing the movement when opened. The appraiser discussed the inconsistency in the letter regarding the age of the watch.
Stayed around for years. They were noted for very, very fine watches, also like this very, very heavy 18-karat gold.
This also raised doubt on the claim that it was made in collaboration with Jules Jurgensen. Despite these uncertainties, the watch holds significant value.
the value on the retail market would be in the $25,000 to $30,000 price range.
Wow.
Vases for a gift to her husband. The small group by Tiffany Studios comprises a salt cellar and a shot glass. Louis Comfort Tiffany created these highly sought-after vases for their unique designs and craftsmanship. These are much rarer, categorized as miniatures in collecting. The gold iridescent glass pieces are sold in a gallery, and they are truly wonderful. Fabergé glass gains its iridescence from mixing metallic oxides into molten glass, a wonderful salt and shot glass as the appraiser valued the item.
Sell in a gallery setting for probably about $200 to $250.
Okay.
And the appraiser valued these two rare miniatures.
Now these are more special. This one is probably in the $1,500 to $2,000 range, and this is probably in the $1,000 to $1,500 range.
Wow.
The ring belonged to owner's grandmother and has been with her since 1999, mostly in her jewelry box. Standout feature is the coral carved face typical of Victorian jewelry from 1837 to 1901. People of the Victorian era favored coral, especially in high relief like this, rather than low relief shell cameos. It is crafted from 18-karat gold, giving it this rich hue. In 1840, Queen Victoria's snake and emerald ring set a trend, influencing the fashion of the time. Though unmarked, this ring likely originates from France due to its style. Platinum setting represents a rare early use of the metal. Eyes are emeralds, with small European-cut diamonds serving as accents.
The gold. From 18-karat gold's about 75% pure gold with the other alloys.
This piece would fetch...
At auction, I would say that this ring would be in there for $2,000 to $3,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So, most definitely not costume jewelry.
No.
Antique lovers, purchasing antique flags brings joy. However, more often than not, you might end up purchasing a fake. One way to identify authenticity is by considering that antique flags were made from natural materials.
Make sure your flag is sewn by hand.
And that's pretty easy even for the layman to look at the stitching and say that's hand sewn as opposed to machine sewn.
While fake ones are crafted from synthetic materials. Another indicator is machine sewn flags. During the 1800s, sewing machines were patented, so flags had to be hand-sewn. Additionally, the embroidery on antique flags is handmade, as advanced technology was not common during that time. Kids, we've all wondered about the adventures of riding on a train. Wonderful enough, today's piece is a model of a train. Modeled after an actual train called the Blue Comet, this piece was made by Joshua Lionel Cowan. Cowan was an American inventor and co-founder of Lionel Corporation, a manufacturer of model railroads and toy trains. Just like the actual Blue Comet train that ran along the shores of New Jersey, this piece's external design is a replica and is painted blue.
1941, there's a train called the Blue Comet that ran a New Jersey Central line down to Atlantic City and the Jersey Shore.
Along with the external design, the internal make of this piece is an actual depiction of the Blue Comet train, with every detail matching that of the train it was modeled after.
The temple here, all named after comets.
No kidding. This train, a model of a famous train loved by the American populace, would fetch a sum of...
I would put this out, estimate $8,000 to $10,000.
Oh my.
It's sold as much as $11,500.
Good heaven.
Vintage lampshade isn't merely a source of light. It's a piece of history that illuminates our presence. Inherited from her father, this guest recounts the tale of how it entered his family.
Years going through the attic, and we pulled it out.
The lampshade was crafted by the Tiffany Studio in New York. The pattern adorning the lamp is known as the vine border. We can discern the green vines and leaves on the item.
Lovely little leaves on the vines.
Yes.
Now they do look like acorns. I agree with you.
This lampshade dates back to around 1906. Remarkably, even after more than a century since its creation, it remains in good condition. However, its original fixtures are missing, which affects its value slightly. It is estimated to be worth
Would be worth between $15,000 and $20,000
With the hardware.
if you could get the original hardware. It's that important and that unusual.
Originally, cufflinks were a gift from the Tsar of Russia to the guest's grandfather who worked in Russia in the early 1900s. Our guest's aunt converted them into earrings, a common practice for repurposing such pieces. The double-headed Russian imperial eagle, a symbol of the government, likely adorned the original cufflinks.
And my grandfather actually worked in Russia for a while in the early 1900s.
These earrings bear incised numbers on the back, possibly indicating the maker's inventory numbers, suggesting they could be from the jeweler Carl Fabergé. Although the original backs are missing, and as earrings, they are valued at...
They would probably be worth 12 to 15.
Oh my
I think
God.
that there's evidence on the back by the little numbers that they, in fact, were probably by the jeweler Carl Fabergé, the imperial jeweler of Russia.
As potential Fabergé pieces, even in their current form, they could fetch...
In a retail setting, they would probably be sold for $40,000 to $50,000.
Unbelievable.
While helping clean out a foreclosed house, guests discovered a unique letter in a dumpster. The letter dated back to 1881 from one Indian chief to another, urging for peace. Chief William wrote to Chief Jim expressing concerns about conflict.
He starts off writing to this one chief who was a Washoe and obviously one of the big chiefs.
He mentioned incidents of misbehavior and drunkenness among the tribes. It highlighted a specific incident where 12 members of a family were killed. Chief William sought peace and reconciliation between the tribes. He mentioned an agreement to pay for damages, emphasizing the need for peace.
Then he's saying that she just wants to go home to her family in Reno because where the Washoe were was in California, up near the border of Nevada and so on.
Chief William's letter mentioned woman Annie's safety, urging Chief Jim to prevent violence, and surprisingly, he hinted at wanting compensation if Annie was harmed. Such letters between Indian chiefs are exceedingly rare. Negotiations and discussions of payment in such letters are even more uncommon. Appraiser estimated that letter could fetch
that this might sell retail $5,000 to $10,000 wouldn't shock me at all.
1955 Visage jug is a clay masterpiece from Valerie, capturing the artist's timeless style. Recollecting a visit to San Francisco 4 decades ago, the guest recalled purchasing what was presented as a Picasso jug. The appraiser delved into its origins in Valerie, France. During Picasso's ceramic phase between 1946 and 1955, noting its characteristic simplicity. The appraiser informs us that this is a form called visage, which is French for face. It's a simple, elegant design. At the bottom it says Edition Picasso and then Madura. That's where it was made, at the Madura Pottery Works. Nowadays, because Picasso's ceramics are simple to make and he became famous early on, there are many fake Picasso ceramics around. Despite the absence of an edition size on the bottom, the inclusion of a receipt bearing the guest's name served as vital provenance. Identified as a Remy 288, part of a limited edition of 500, its potential authenticity was bolstered. While praising Picasso's work, the appraiser said,
Today's market, at auction, $20,000 would be the price.
Well, that's not bad. It's a pretty good return on my money.
In the spring of 1995, this guest, a car enthusiast, read about the Rolex Daytona, admired its connection to car racing, and sought to purchase one. After being told by a dealer that the watch was extremely rare, he found a seller in the classifieds offering 2 Daytonas.
I really didn't know. I mean, I knew it was in the box, never been worn, and I went through the paperwork. I felt comfortable with it, and I think this was before the counterfeit watches were a thing. It was prior to the internet. It looked like the real deal, and so I went for it.
So he bought a black-faced Daytona for $5,700, with his pregnant wife's hesitant approval. The appraiser noted the guest's extensive use of the watch, which included manual labor, adding significant wear and tear. Despite this, having the original packaging and paperwork, along with the natural aging of the dial due to ultraviolet light exposure, increased the watch's value.
And on the black dials, so luckily you didn't get a white dial, you got a black dial.
This watch had a black dial that started to change color, which was beneficial because the more it was exposed to sunlight, the darker the rings became, making the watch unique. This wonderful watch, featuring the Zenith El Primero movement, was estimated dramatically by the appraiser to be worth.
The Zenith chronographs right now are really trading around $20,000 to $25,000 right now at auction.
The bracelet originally belonged to the guest's mother, who gifted it to her for dress-up. The guest has cherished it ever since. The guest had realized the bracelet might be special when she saw a similar one on a PBS show. The appraiser immediately identified it as the work of Art Smith, a famous modernist known for his unique jewelry designs. Art Smith, an Afro-Cuban American, moved from Cuba to Brooklyn and later to Greenwich Village in the 1940s and 50s. He created highly sought-after pieces, some of which were commissioned by notable figures like Eleanor Roosevelt and Duke Ellington, and featured in magazines such as Harper's Bazaar and Vogue. This bracelet, called the Modernette, was made of copper and brass, which was less common than the silver versions Smith also created. It bore his signature, which confirmed its authenticity despite some discoloration. The appraiser noted that similar pieces had sold for $12,000 in 2012. Given the current demand for modernist jewelry, he estimated the bracelet's value at...
Okay, it's been a while.
And this sold at auction in 2012 for $12,000.
Oh my gosh! Are you kidding?
No, I am not.
Oh my... Oh, okay.
To a symphony of color and emotion with the oil masterpieces of Elaine de Kooning and Wolf Conn. During the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, the guest's father owned a parking garage in New York City's Greenwich Village, near where artists like the de Koonings, Elaine and Willem, and Wolf Conn congregated. The artists often parked at the garage and arranged trades when short on cash. One such trade resulted in an early portrait of Wolf Conn by Elaine de Kooning. The piece marks a transition in his style, shifting from a darker to a brighter palette. It depicts the artist in his studio on a large canvas. Wolf Conn is renowned for abstract landscapes, while Elaine de Kooning excelled in portraiture, mythological scenes, and abstract bull depictions. Both 20th century abstraction contemporaries, Conn's mid-1960s artwork showcased a transitional shift in style, indicating his evolving artistic journey. The appraiser noted that while both artists were known for their abstract work, these pieces showcased different themes. The guest chuckled at the art's value compared to garage rent, pleased with the appraisals. While praising the artwork of Conn and de Kooning, the appraiser said,
an evaluation of somewhere around 30 to 50,000, perhaps 40 to 60,000 would be conservative for that.
Excellent.
Guest showcased an artwork by her late grandfather, Ben Carlton Mead, a celebrated Western illustrator from Texas. Titled The Kingfisher, this illustration piece holds a rich backstory
In watercolor and gouache, a wonderful circus scene by your grandfather. It's a lovely painting.
And dates back to the 1940s and 50s. Unlike many illustrations painted in shades of gray, known as grisaille, this piece stands out as an original example in watercolor and gouache. Featuring a captivating circus scene, this lovely painting is a testament to Mead's artistic talent. At auction, such a unique watercolor art piece would bring...
Watercolor would fall in the $5,000 to $7,000 range.
Wow, that's very nice to know.
The guest bought this watch at a local estate sale for $10, only to learn later that it was marked Rolex, but she was unsure of its authenticity. Her husband took the watch to a local appraisal fair where someone offered him $800 for it. The guest decided to keep the watch instead of selling it. The appraiser confirmed that the watch was genuine, made by the Rolex Watch Company in Geneva, Switzerland. The model was first launched in 1931, and this particular watch was made in the early 1940s. It featured a 14-karat gold case and was nicknamed the Bubbleback due to its thick, bulbous case that accommodates the rotor for automatic winding.
Model in 1931, this for example is made around the early 1940s. It's in a 14-karat gold case. It's nicknamed the Bubbleback. It was the first ever good automatic wristwatch.
The appraiser noted that the bracelet on the watch was not original, as these watches were typically sold with leather straps. However, this did not affect the watch's value. The appraiser cautioned the guest to be wary when someone offers to buy an item during an appraisal. Ultimately, the appraiser valued this watch at...
In this type of condition, I think realistically, at auction purposes, you'd be looking around $4,000.
Wow.
This crocodile or alligator, likely crocodile bag, dating back to approximately 1890 to 1905, originally belonged to the guest's grandfather. Handmade with meticulous craftsmanship, the bag is a testament to the luxury goods produced in Austria during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Despite its age and slight wear, the bag's extraordinary shape and patina are indicative of its high quality and historical significance. These type of valises are extremely rare, adding to the bag's allure and value as a collector's item. At auction, this unique piece of luggage would likely fetch at...
Say that at auction this would sell for between $3,000 and $3,500 at least. It's a really great piece, and I hope you don't let it collect any more dust.
Posters are artworks we see every day, ranging from movie posters to sports posters. Today's pieces, however, are quite iconic. They're a complete set of the Four Freedoms posters. These posters are based on a famous speech by Franklin Roosevelt. Roosevelt was the 32nd President of the United States, whose third and fourth terms coincided with America's involvement in World War II.
Freedom from fear and freedom of worship. And Norman Rockwell took it upon himself to illustrate these four freedoms. And he did these four paintings. These were originally paintings.
The posters were made by an employee of the Saturday Evening Post, Norman Rockwell. Rockwell was an American painter and illustrator most famous for his cover illustrations made for the Saturday Evening Post. Of utmost importance about these posters was that they were used as a form of fundraising for World War II by the American government.
The government issued them in 3 different sizes. These are the largest of 3 sizes. They each measure about 40 inches wide by 60 inches high.
These posters are a treasure to behold for what they stand for, and having not just 1 but 4 of them will make them valued at...
I would estimate the 4 at $4,000 to $6,000 for the group.
Oh, that's great.
They still command such a strong price, in large part because they're so large.
The First World War, the British Army sentenced 306 soldiers to death after a court-martial for desertion and other capital offenses. Our guest uncle was one of those soldiers.
A second sentry duty for a sick friend. A young officer inspected him, claimed that he was asleep.
Sentenced to death for allegedly sleeping on duty.
Sentenced to be confirmed. He was given back his rifle, sent back to the front, knowing he might be shot by the enemy ahead of him or his own people behind him.
His sentence was later commuted to a 5-year penal servitude, and he received a certificate of honor from his regiment.
Breast pocket where his paybook. Through the photograph of his sister.
We also have records of his actual sentencing, the commuting of that sentence, and of the wiping off of that sentence. This legacy serves as a testament to the enduring human cost of war and the importance of honoring every life lost in service. What value can be placed on this? At first glance, you wouldn't realize just how rare this toy is, just because it looks like the normal, everyday toy.
It's a toy by a manufacturer called Marklin.
It's so rare that perhaps only 2 of its kind were ever made.
And when I walked through the corridors of Chatsworth House,
it was crafted by a German toy company called Marklin, and toys manufactured by this company have now become highly valuable. This is owing to the fact that the company was among the pioneers in manufacturing technical toys. It has been said that some of the toys made by this company are worth at least £100,000. Similarly, being only one of 2 known examples, this toy would command a price of...
That, which has never turned up, would have to start at around 150,000.
Since childhood, the guest has been amassing a collection of flip books, and nestled within them is a delightful surprise for our daily viewers. These flip books resembled miniature animated films. They served diverse functions, from advertising to amusement. Included are baseball collectibles, Disney publications, and even Howdy Doody. Surprising treasure is the Antiques Roadshow flip book, crafted by the flippist. It amusingly portrays experts such as Lee, Les, Nick Lowry, and the appraiser himself. Each flip book is a historical artifact, with some being exceptionally rare. Appraiser estimates the value of the entire. Many perceive soldiers as stern and unyielding. This archive from West Point Military Academy provides a different perspective. Dating back to 1861, this
class, what you've got for us today is fascinating.
This archive is crucial as it documents the experiences of soldiers at one of the premier military academies.
Material dating, we believe, earliest letters are about 1857 through 1860.
West Point is notable for offering the highest number of majors and minors among all service academies. Included in the collection is an appointment document issued to the guest's grandfather. Of particular significance is that this document bears the signature of the esteemed leader, Abraham Lincoln. Also featured is a book highlighting key figures overseeing West Point in 1861.
And it's annotated by your great-grandfather as to what happened to them. This one says, killed at Gettysburg. We have a picture of your great-grandfather.
Considering the historical significance of these documents, this archive holds significant auction value of...
would probably have an auction estimate of between $8,000 and $12,000.
This unique piece of artwork was created by local Madison artist Simon Sparrow, known for his street preaching in the area. Sparrow was a customer of the owner's father-in-law's service station and...
Madison, and one day in the winter, his car had broken down, and he had walked to the service station, asked my father-in-law to help him, and so he did.
Made from found objects, this piece is considered outsider art, reflecting a mix of African spirituality.
And he thought that his art and his spiritual message were one and the same.
Sparrow believed his art was a spiritual vessel through which God spoke. The artwork, created in the late 1970s or early 1980s, initially hung in the owner's in-law's basement before being passed down to them. Despite hanging briefly in their son's room, it was eventually taken down as it frightened him. Simon Sparrow passed away in 2000, and his works are highly regarded, with some displayed in the Minnesota Museum of Art and represented by a major gallery in Chicago. The appraiser estimates the value of this piece to be...
Say, a good auction estimate on this would be $6,000 to $8,000.
Wow.
And then I would just kind of stand back and let them fight over it.
That's great.
This furniture, we can tell that it's quite old. The furniture is a Victorian oak sideboard. This sideboard was crafted in the 19th century. As the name suggests, it was made with oak. Typical with furniture of that era, it was handmade.
Is the carving machine done? Absolutely not.
The columns of the lower cases of this piece are barleycorn, but they are actually copies of Solomonic columns.
Which you find in the Vatican.
This piece showcases the creativity of Victorian-era furniture makers and would auction for
$2,000 to $3,000 range. Okay, that's kind of what I thought.
The speed at which information travels in this century is truly remarkable, unlike the 19th century from which this manuscript originates. These are Confederate Floridian newspapers from the American Civil War, utilized by the guest's great-grandfather, a state senator, for research.
And probably used it for research when he was putting through the Confederate Veterans Pension Fund for the state of Florida.
The newspapers document the events that unfolded during the war from 1862 through 1865. What's particularly fascinating is that the information from the battles often arrived late. For instance, the assassination of Abraham Lincoln was reported in the newspapers about a week after his death.
This one has the details of the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Whoever compiled this binder thought enough to save 2 copies of that paper.
These Confederate newspapers are exceedingly rare because the Confederacy faced several shortages of supplies during the war, resulting in limited production of these papers and of great significance to the history of the United States. This volume of history is valued at
$4,000 to $6,000 for the volume.
Let's dive into history with the 1929 C.G. Conn trombone. It has all kinds of old special stuff from a time when music was different. The guest shared that the trombone was gifted to her husband-to-be in 1968 by the son of Leo Zimmerman, a renowned trombonist in John Philip Sousa's band. The appraiser elaborated on the instrument's maker, Charles Gerard Conn, and the significance of his contribution to brass instrument production. Despite initial assumptions about its age, placing it around 1913, it was determined to be from 1929. The guest mentioned that their son began playing the trombone in the 7th grade, but was advised against it for its value. The appraiser emphasized the trombone's excellent condition and its accompanied ephemera, including custom mouthpieces and Sousa-related items. The appraiser highlighted that on the Roadshow, they rarely encounter Conn instruments of such exceptional quality. Signed C.G. Conn from Elkhart, Indiana, this trombone boasts exquisite engraving and impeccable condition. While stating the significance of the instrument, the appraiser said,
"For insurance purposes, you want to insure this in probably about the $3,000 range."
Very, very good.
Things in life is being able to own a musical instrument, and the piece we're presented with today is quite a unique musical instrument. This piece is called a Ukelin and combines elements of the ukulele and violin. The Ukelin was made by the International Music Company based in Hoboken and Jersey City.
Based in 2 places, Hoboken, New Jersey, and Jersey City.
When played, the Ukelin produces a distinctive sound that's somewhere between a violin and a zither. This piece is complete with its bow and music direction booklet accompanying it.
Of $1 after that. After you've had it for a couple of months, you'd realize you can't play it.
Although the Ukelin is not as commonly seen today, it has a fascinating history in American music and would be valued at...
Value today, $50 at best, so a little bit better than the $35 it might have cost day one.
This bracelet, consisting of a series of real gold nuggets, has been in the guest family for many years, though they are unsure of its exact history. Each segment of the bracelet features raw gold nuggets, giving it a unique and natural appearance. The bracelet's origin is traced back to Australia, known for its opal mines and
sources, and found out they had opal mines, and they had terrific resources for metals, and one of the metals they had.
It is speculated that someone wealthy likely brought this bracelet back as a souvenir from Australia. This piece is exceptionally rare, as it is only the second piece of Australian gold the appraiser has encountered in their 3-generation career in the business. The appraiser values this unique piece of jewelry at approximately...
Jewelry has a value of about $12,000 to $15,000, and if not in New York, certainly in Australia.
That's nice to know.
Presented with a couple of stunning landscape paintings, which the guest acquired from a yard sale. These pieces were painted by John F. Kensett, a prominent 19th century American artist, renowned for his work in Rhode Island. Painted with oil on artist board, these pieces, though lacking a signature, bear small inscriptions addressed to someone special.
Each of them has a little inscription in the lower right-hand corner, inscribed to someone. This one says, Louis Parmley from J.F. Kensett.
With their captivating landscape, these oil paintings on artist board hold significant value of...
At auction would be $30,000 to $50,000 each.
$30,000 to $50,000.
$30,000 to $50,000 each.
The essence and valor of this Indian hunting sword are truly remarkable. It was purchased by our guest's grandfather at an antique shop in England circa 1953.
1953 when he was stationed there for the Air Force. And that's about all I know. My grandma's had it ever since.
The sword, known as a shamshir, was made in India and features Kaftkari work. Its iron hilt is inlaid with gold, while the pommel boasts a parrot motif. We can also admire floral designs inlaid with gold across the surface. Additionally, there's a Persian inscription on the sword. The sword's blade was forged with Damascus steel.
If you had that polished a bit more, you could actually see the grain much more pronounced than it is.
At auction, this beautifully crafted sword would command a significant value of
$3,000.
Headrests are cultural artifacts that offer comfort and connection. A person checked Martin's item, and Martin, a teacher, mentioned using it to teach his students about headrests worldwide. The question of its authenticity left Martin and his friends eager for an answer. Confirming its authenticity, the person explained it's from Somalia, used by women with fancy hairstyles. They noticed marks from use and praised its designs. These are nice marks on the edges where it's been used a lot. When picked up, you can see that it's been on the ground. Also, it has pretty Islamic designs mixing Africa and Islam together. Though from the 1920s or 1930s, Martin, who got it cheap, appreciated the appraisal and the person thanked them for sharing. While examining the condition of the neck rest, the appraiser said,
$500 to $700. Wow. So is that a reasonable investment? Sure.
Displayed on the show is an old silver trophy once owned by the guest's grandfather, a Bentley car racer. This distinguished Wakefield Cup, dating back to 1931, commemorates excellence in pre-war racing with the Vintage Sports Car Club. While a mere piece of silver might fetch around $15,000, this silver cup, tied to the guest's grandfather as a recipient, is sure to command a much higher price at auction.
$20,000. Wow. So it is a heck of a trophy.
This piece, a French portrait of a boy characteristic of the high-quality portrait painting of the early 19th century.
The costume is very elegant, the boy is very lovely and just beautifully painted, very romantic.
The frame of the painting tells another story. Its designs depict Austrian-Hungarian origins, bearing motifs of a maiden and lotus leaves, waves all intricately engraved to create an exquisite design style on the frame. The portrait, with its French style and origin, features a romantic depiction of a young man in a beautiful costume, which puts its value at
between $1,500 and $2,500.
Okay.
The frame, bearing a unique design and dating further back than the portrait, is estimated to be worth
between $2,000 and $3,000.
So, Muller Frères vase was passed down to the guest by her uncle. It was crafted by a company called Muller Frères, and this company, during the early 20th century, was known to be top of the glass-making industry. The vase is very well crafted and designed to stand out. This beauty was known to be a trademark of the company at the time.
Boonville was the first place they were. Probably the best known for this type of glass was Emile Gallet,
which clearly explains why they were leaders in their industry. As a fragile piece of art, this French vase, in its superior condition, would auction at
$4,000 to $6,000, and with a good wind behind you on a day, maybe $5,000 to $8,000.
Reveal how truly important it is.
But the document that you brought in is really significant because of who it was given to. Who was that?
But this document was responsible for one of the most important expeditions in American history. It is called the Meriwether-Lewis Commission document, and it was signed by Thomas Jefferson to appoint Meriwether-Lewis as a captain in charge of an expedition known as Lewis and Clark Expedition.
From 1804 to 1806, went from St. Louis to the Pacific and back.
Right.
Congress authorized the expedition.
These expeditions were significant because it aimed to open up trade ties with Native Americans at the time. Given its longevity for centuries, this commissioning document would auction at
$25,000 and $35,000.
1868, a man received a cherished trombone from Mr. Zimmerman's son, confident that the music-loving couple would appreciate it. This Conn trombone, once played by Leo Zimmerman in Sousa's band, dates to 1929 and boasts intricate engravings. Originally believed to be from 1913, its true date and exceptional condition along with custom mouthpieces and Sousa Zimmermann items, enhance its rarity. The ephemera may include paper documents and metal mouthpieces. These items are relevant to the history and usage of the trombone. It remains a great piece in immaculate condition, treasured by the couple's son, until his teacher deemed it too valuable. While examining the condition of the item, the appraiser said,
$3,000 range.
Very, very good.
At the picture done on this plaque, you would think it's a man wearing a woman's clothing, but it's actually a picture of a woman. The piece was made using a term called Delft pottery, which was named after a city in Holland, and was made circa 1898 by a company called Porcelain Delft. Porcelain Delft was probably the most respected Delft company of the 19th and 20th centuries. The picture in the plaque is a copy of a famous Rembrandt painting whose original is hanging in the Rijksmuseum in the Netherlands.
On pottery, had to paint it, they could only really use one color, and that's the traditional color that they normally use on Delft pottery. So the original painting, of course, was not blue.
This piece, a copy of an original painting and done by the Porcelain Delft, would be worth
$1,500 to $2,500 range.
Good. My fear was you're going to tell me where it's going to be so pricey I couldn't keep it hanging on my wall.
This piece is a funky-looking old piece of furniture that was passed down to this guest by his grandmother. The piece is a really rare and interesting chair called a charming chair. From the craftsmanship of the chair, we can tell it was made in the 18th century and was probably made in North Carolina, possibly Southern Virginia.
And the history of this chair would take us all the way back, I'm thinking, to the first half of the 18th century.
There's a great little simple baluster turning on the rear style of the chair, and it is composed almost entirely of ash wood.
A kind of wood that takes turning very well, and it was used a lot in this kind of chair.
Upon closer inspection, we can see that the seat of the chair has been changed to a rush seat, which isn't the original. This piece of furniture that has 300 years of history and shows early American wood craftsmanship should be worth
maybe $6,000. Wow. I'm thrilled you brought it in here. Congratulations.
Well, thank you so much.
Our guest inherited this unusual-looking artifact from her mother-in-law, who purchased the vase from a lady in Louisiana.
I inherited it from my mother-in-law, who got it from a lady who said that it was from Louisiana.
This unique piece of art was crafted by Maria Longworth Storer. She was the founder of Rookwood Pottery in Cincinnati, Ohio, which became one of the most prominent art pottery makers in the United States. This bronze vase boasts several unique features, including a sculpted head of Medusa, snakes, and an octopus. It was crafted using the lost wax technique and bears the artist's signature at the base.
And lustrous glazes on them. The piece itself was done in the lost wax technique. And what she did when she made this is she had a block of wax.
Originally a base for another vase, this masterfully crafted and distinctive piece is estimated to sell at auction for about...
And considering its rarity and the interest in Rookwood, it's probably worth between $3,000 and $5,000.
Wow.
Presented a vase passed down from her father, procured at a local auction in 1963. It was recognized as an elephant vase because of its unique elephant-shaped handles, often seen in esteemed settings such as palaces. The appraiser noted its lacquer construction, indicating meticulous craftsmanship with hundreds of layers.
About 2 to 3 days for each layer to dry. So for a vase like this, there probably are literally hundreds of layers of lacquer. So the time it took to construct this.
They also highlighted the lappets, shaped forms descending from the neck of the vase, as a noteworthy design element. The vase lacked finely cut lotus decoration and a mark on the base. Despite its quality, the vase suffered damage, including missing deer antlers and severe damage along the skyline. The appraiser also pointed out a clumsy repair attempt on the piece. Due to extensive damage and dating from a late period, the overall worth declined. Considering these factors, the value held by the particular piece was...
So this has some value. If this came up at an auction sale today, even with the damage, we would expect to get somewhere between $5,000 and $8,000 for it.
I see. Thank you.
This lady's mother was a sitter for one of Paul Trubetskoy's sculptures.
Paul was an exceptional sculptor from Italy. In 1924, when the guest's mother was 7 years old, Paul made a bronze sculpture of her. The piece was valued impressively at $20,000 and even doubled in value to $40,000 in 2020.
Wow. So it's a very valuable piece.
Wow.
If you're a book collector, this is proof that your torn books might still be very valuable. A rare first edition of the 1851 book, Pearl of Great Price by the American religious leader, Joseph Smith, was owned by the great-great-grandfather of the guest. The book was far from being in good condition, but its $60,000 value didn't seem to care much about that.
100-year-old spoon and a finely crafted doll are cherished artifacts in the guest's possession, possibly made from mountain sheep horn. The spoon originates from the Athabascan tribe in Canada and was used for serving.
They were made to sell, but also the children played with them in the tribe. The embroidery is gorgeous, and what that is, it's seal gut.
Acquired in 1957 during a vacation in northern Wisconsin, it was a birthday gift from a mother to her teenage son. A chance discovery in a tavern sale led to the doll becoming part of the guest's collection. Intricately designed with seal gut embroidery and articulated limbs, it showcases meticulous craftsmanship. Collectors would eagerly buy the embroidered shoes alone due to their exceptional detailing. Despite their humble origins and initial low costs, these items hold significant historical and monetary value today. These pieces, showcasing enduring artistry of indigenous craftsmanship, could fetch up to
Able to look up all the records on sales for the past 5 years or so. It was $2,000 to $3,000.
Oh my God.
Have you ever seen a silk tapestry that seemed to shift between day and night as the light changes? This guest brought in what they believed was a 400-year-old tapestry from Beijing, China, purchased by their aunt in 1934. They were curious if the scene depicted night or day, since the light created a moonlit appearance. The appraiser explained that the tapestry's monochromatic appearance made it difficult to discern the scene. Originally, the silk threads were dyed in bright colors, but these dyes faded over time and exposure to sunlight. The piece featured a small orb, likely the moon, with a river view and a rustic hut amidst a bamboo grove below. The appraiser clarified it wasn't a tapestry, but rather an embroidery, with threads sewn onto a silk backing. Although bought in China, it was of Japanese origin, popular in Japan during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The piece was estimated to be from around 1900 to 1920, as the expansive landscape view became prevalent in Japan only in the 20th century. Despite some damage, the appraiser advised against any restoration, noting it was in acceptable condition. The piece was valued by the appraiser as follows.
I would say if we sold this at auction, it would make somewhere in the order of about $1,500 to $2,500, maybe $2,000 to $3,000.
Well, that's great. It could be worth as much as $6,000 to $8,000 if it were in pristine condition with vibrant colors.
Dirk Van Erp lamp from 1910. It's a timeless piece that holds a fascinating story within its copper frame.
Years ago, I did some horse trading and traded a wrought iron coffee table for it.
You traded the table and you got a lamp.
Yes.
It was crafted by the skilled hands of Dirk Van Erp, a Dutch-born artisan who immigrated to the United States in the late 19th century. Dirk was renowned for his mastery of copper craftsmanship. This is a great example of hammered copper, and this is called isinglass, so mica shade. This design was inspired by the arts and crafts movement, simplicity, craftsmanship, and a connection to nature. What makes it truly special is the meticulous attention to detail for every aspect of design. From my hand-hammered copper shade to my sturdy base, every element reflects its dedication to quality and beauty. Interestingly, it serves as both a functional source of light and a cherished piece of art. The lamp is a timeless elegance of Dirk Van Erp's design philosophy. This is very desirable in this market. It's worth between $30,000 and $40,000.
And somewhat bawdy addition to a pig collection, this unique piece stands out as a bourbon flask crafted by the American pottery known as the Anna pottery. Founded in 1859 in Anna, Illinois, by the Kirkpatrick family, Anna pottery initially focused on utilitarian wares. Found within a shed by the guest's friends, this pig flask features incised details, including a railway line representing the Illinois Central Railroad and the word Chicago near its snout. This piece embodies a fusion of American stoneware, bourbon flasks, folk art, and railroad culture. Despite their humble origins and intended expendable, their value has soared over time.
Most of these were thrown away. They were very inexpensive when they were new. They were not really meant to be kept.
This unexpected find proves to be a hidden gem, estimated to be worth,
I think you would expect at least $5,000 at auction.
Now I feel fine and Nikki's going to go, oh my God.
Cat would think after seeing this bronze statue. It's a bronze cat statue that was acquired by this guest some years back. A charming bronze statue at first glance, it's called an Australian gold-plated bronze statue and was made circa 1900. This piece is what they call a transformer, as it opens up into a naughty image.
The cat opens up and it converts to a little naughty image here.
Although the piece is not signed, we know that it was done by an Austrian artist due to the Austrian mark on it. This piece is highly collectible and, coupled with its transformer style, would make it worth
is $2,000.
Oh my goodness.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yes, it is.
Well, thank you very much for bringing it in. It's a lovely, lovely piece.
Thank you.
The piece takes us back to the 1930s. The guest presents us with a toy copy of a tractor and a hay rake from the 1930s he had acquired at a house auction. The piece was made by a company called Arcade, and they used cast iron in making the toy.
Arcade was one of the great makers of cast iron toys, and this was the tail end of the cast iron toy industry in this country.
A quite unique thing about this toy is that it came with its original box, which is quite unusual. There's also a logo of the Arcade company on the tractor, and the painting on the hay rake is still just as flawless as when it was made. This piece is an intricate model and a wonderful piece of mechanical equipment, and would be worth
$3,000 to $5,000.
Incredible.
A brooch at an estate sale in South Mississippi and bought it for $5,400. The brooch, according to its box, was identified as a Verdura piece from 1954. The appraiser, an experienced jeweler who knew Mr. Verdura personally, admired the brooch's craftsmanship and design. Verdura, who passed away in 1978, was renowned for his colorful jewelry featuring insects and flowers and operated a prestigious Fifth Avenue jewelry store. The brooch was identified as a Verdura flower pin, featuring full-cut diamonds set in platinum South American emeralds, 18-karat gold, and top-quality Ugaurian amethysts, with a distinctive purple-blue hue. The piece was also noted for its intricate design, allowing for easy repair with set screws. Leaving the guest astonished and thrilled, the appraiser estimated that if the brooch was to be properly advertised at auction, it could sell for
A piece like this, if it came up for auction and we advertised it right, could easily sell anywhere from $25,000 to $35,000.
Oh my goodness.
The woman got to watch as the United States President was getting his portrait painted. She was a cousin to the personal maid of Eleanor Roosevelt, First Lady of the United States. The woman came to the show with the First Lady's personal possessions, including pictures and letters.
But a conservative auction estimate for the entire archive would be around $8,000 to $12,000.
Oh my,
yeah.
Wonderful.
This guest bought this piece from his friend who was retiring.
Fellow worked with me. He was 74 years old and he was retiring. His mother-in-law had died and his wife had died, and he had 2 houses to clean out. I'm a train collector, and he wanted to know if I wanted to buy one of the trains.
Along with some train sets, he got them all for $200. This is a complete Ferris wheel set made by a company named Dahl. Based in Germany, Dahl produced many wonderful items, including this Ferris wheel, which was designed to be run as an accessory to a steam engine. Presented in mint condition, this piece has everything intact, with all the figures and mechanisms dating back to 1904. A rare and unique steam-powered Ferris wheel in such condition will sell at auction for...
At an auction, I think it would probably sell in the range of $8,000 to $12,000.
An unexpected gift. This tile panel was found hanging over the fireplace of the newly purchased house of this guest. It has caster wheels attached to it, making it mobile. By the American Encaustic Tile Company of Zanesville, Ohio, this panel is particularly unique because of its overall large size and size of individual tiles.
Usually, if you have a large panel made up of tiles, they're all 6 inches, almost all the time.
6-inch square.
6-inch square.
Yeah.
Another unique property of this tile panel is the style of the painting used. Most panels are usually decorated in a Victorian American encaustic style. This, however, is painted in the Delft style.
And I don't know if you're familiar with Delft. It's a city in Holland. They've been producing pots and tiles, and mostly tin glazed in blue and white, just like this.
This is America's encaustic version of the famous Delft tiles. The company's mark is seen on the back of this detachable tile, and this lovely work of art is valued at about...
I would value this at somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000.
Not bad.
Jolly Toby Jug makes his way to the show. This guest brings this Toby Jug, which has been in her family for over 200 years. Toby jugs, also known as Toby mugs, are famous pottery jugs modeled as a seated figure or head of a recognizable person. These jugs were originally made in England in the 18th century. This particular jug is believed to be an early piece dating to around the 1800s.
First of all, I can feel it's very lightweight, and that's typical of the early one. It doesn't happen after the first period, because it's made of something called pearl glazed earthenware, which is very thinly potted.
The use of this pearl-glazed earthenware was stopped around the 1830s. Also, the characteristic bluish tint of pearl-glazed earthenware is present.
Now, wherever the glaze collects, which it's done around the eyes and in the furrows of the brow here and in the mouth, you can see in the thicker part of the glaze it's bluish.
These tints are absent in later productions in the late 19th and 20th centuries. These features indicate that this is an early Toby jug. It is in pristine condition for a piece this old, and it is valued at about...
Passed down to her by her dad 27 years ago, this billboard artwork is an original oil painting. This piece was painted by an American impressionist, Philip Lyford. Lyford was an artist born in 1887 and was very famous for Flanders Field. The artist's works have gone up for sale at a public auction 15 times, mostly in the painting category. This piece was painted as a billboard to go on top of a building. It features a man holding Narragansett beer, which was the first beer brewed by the Original Six back in 1890.
This billboard actually was on display here on top of one of the local buildings.
There's a lot of people collecting original artwork for advertising and illustration now. Yet, the real question is how much would this rare artwork sell for at auction?
This piece of $800 to $1,000.
Wow. Great. That's terrific. That's great.
Yeah.
Tapestries are not just ordinary pieces of fabric. They hold stories, secrets, and sometimes surprising value. The guest found an old tapestry in their aunt's attic back in 1973. They didn't think much of it at the time and just tucked it away in their bedroom closet. Years later, they started going through some old stuff they found with the tapestry and realized it might be valuable. It turned out that the tapestry was bought in 1922 from a factory in Germany for $140. The design on the tapestry was based on a famous painting by Jan van Eyck, a well-known artist from the 15th century. This painting is found in a church in Flanders. But there were small differences in the colors and the way it was made, suggesting that it was made more recently than traditional tapestries from the time. While examining the tapestry, the appraiser said,
I would value this at about $8,000 on the retail level.
I can't believe that! That's fantastic!
It at an estate sale in Newark, rescuing it from certain disposal. He is James L. Kennedy, a fire captain in Company No. 1 in Newark, New Jersey. They took photos showing 30% to 40% of the paint was gone when they received it. From behind, holes revealed the gentleman's identity, the artist's name, and the date, 1852. J.W. John Frederick Herring was a prominent 19th century English painter renowned for his sporting and equestrian art. His works are prized for their historical and artistic significance, reflecting the Victoria-era passion for equestrian pursuits. The initials at the bottom of the emblem on his hat correspond to those of Mr. J.L. Kennedy. His paintings portray scenes with naturalistic colors. In awe of its mastery, the appraiser valued the J.W. Herring painting.
From a value of nothing, I would estimate today that if you put this up for public auction, we'd be talking somewhere in the neighborhood of $4,000 to $6,000.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, my.